The cantina on Nexus Prime buzzed with quiet voices and nervous energy. Alien traders from across the galaxy sat at metal tables, drinking strange liquids and conducting business in hushed tones. The air smelled of exotic spices and engine fuel. Outside the large windows, stars stretched endlessly into space. At the center of it all stood Warlord Kethfer. The massive Zeltharian warrior towered 12 feet above the crowd. His body looked like it was made of black armor, with thick plates covering every inch of his skin. Sharp spikes ran along his arms and shoulders. His eyes glowed red in the dim light of the cantina. When he moved, the floor shook slightly under his weight. Everyone feared Kethvar. They had good reason to. For 47 years, no living creature had ever landed a single blow on him in combat. His reflexes were faster than most beings could see. His strength could crush steel with bare hands. Biomechanical implants in his brain made him even deadlier than nature had already created him. The Zeltharian stood over a small blue-skinned alien who trembled at his feet. The Centauri trader's large black eyes were filled with terror. His thin hand shook as he held up a datapad. "Please, Warlord Kethfer," the Centauri whispered. "I have a family. My children need me to come home." Kethfer's laugh sounded like metal scraping against stone. "You should have thought about your family before you tried to cheat me, little merchant." The trader had allegedly sold damaged cargo to one of Kethfer's business partners. The Zeltharian claimed the Centauri owed him 50,000 credits in compensation. The trader insisted he had done nothing wrong. "I checked the cargo myself," the Centauri pleaded. "Everything was perfect when it left my ship. Are you calling me a liar?" Kethfer's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. The cantina fell completely silent. Even the background music stopped playing. Every alien in the room watched the scene unfold with horrified fascination. They had all seen what happened to beings who angered the warlord. No, the trader said quickly. "I would never dare. But I truly do not have 50,000 credits. Perhaps we could work out a payment plan." Kethfer reached down and grabbed the small alien by his thin neck. He lifted the Centauri off the ground with one hand. "Payment plan? I have a better idea. I take your ship. I sell it for parts. Your family can find their own way home." The Centauri's eyes went wide with panic. "My ship is all I have. Without it, I cannot work. My family will starve." "Not my problem," Kethfer said with a cruel smile. That was when Marcus Chun stepped forward. The human had been sitting quietly in a corner booth for the past hour. He looked completely ordinary compared to the exotic aliens around him. Average height, brown hair, dark eyes. His clothes were simple work coveralls marked with grease stains and wear. Nothing about him suggested he was anything more than another low-level freight hauler, trying to make a living on the edge of civilized space. Marcus had watched the entire confrontation in silence. He understood enough galactic standard to follow the conversation. He had seen this kind of bullying before, back on Earth and on a dozen different worlds since then. "Let him go," Marcus said calmly. Every head in the cantina turned toward the human. Shocked whispers filled the air. Several aliens immediately began moving toward the exits. Sensing that violence was about to erupt, Kethfer slowly turned his massive head to look at the small human who had just spoken. For a moment, he seemed confused, as if he could not believe what he had heard. "What did you say?" the warlord asked. Marcus stood up from his booth and walked closer. Each step was steady and confident. "I said let him go. The traitor has done nothing wrong." Kethfer dropped the Centauri to the floor. The small alien gasped for air and scrambled away to hide behind an overturned table. "A human," Kethfer said, studying Marcus like he was looking at some strange new species of insect. "I've heard of your kind, weak, soft, short-lived." "Maybe," Marcus replied. But we do not like bullies. The Zeltharian's laugh echoed through the cantina. Bullies? Little human, do you have any idea who I am? I know exactly who you are, Marcus said quietly. You are someone who picks on being smaller and weaker than yourself. Where I come from, we have a name for that. Katver's red eyes flared with anger. No one had ever spoken to him like this. His hand moved to the massive sword hanging at his side. Careful, human? You are very close to making a fatal mistake. Marcus did not back down. The only mistake here is yours. That traitor owes you nothing. You are trying to steal his ship because you think no one will stop you. And who exactly is going to stop me? You? If I have to. The cantina erupted in shocked gasps. Several aliens began placing bets through their communication devices. Others started recording the conversation, knowing they were about to witness either a miracle or a massacre. Kethver studied the human more carefully. Marcus stood perfectly still, his hands relaxed at his sides. There was no fear in his eyes. No anger either. Just calm determination. Very well, little human, the warlord said finally. You want to play hero? I will give you a chance to be one. He stepped back and spread his arms wide in a gesture of mock generosity. Formal combat. You and me. If you can land even a single blow on me in battle, I will forgive the traitor's dead and grant his family safe passage. More gasps filled the air. Someone whispered that the odds were 10,000 to 1 against the human. In 47 years, no being had ever touched Kethver in combat. Most opponents were unconscious or dead before they could even attempt an attack. Marcus looked over at the Centauri trader, who was still hiding behind the table. The small alien's family was depending on him. Without his ship, they would indeed starve. And if I lose? Marcus asked. Kethver's smile showed rows of sharp teeth. When you lose, human, I will take your ship as well as his. Consider it payment for wasting my time. Marcus nodded slowly. Fair enough. The warlord clapped his hands together with a sound like thunder. Excellent. We fight in 1 hour. The arena will be prepared. As aliens began rushing out of the cantina to spread word of the impossible challenge, Marcus walked back to his booth and sat down. He closed his eyes and began to breathe slowly and steadily. The fight of his life was about to begin. Word spread through Nexus Prime faster than fire through dry grass. Within minutes, every being on the space station knew about the challenge between the human and Warlord Keth RR. In the Vorthek trading district. Alien merchants huddled around their communication devices, placing bets with bookmakers across the galaxy. The odds started at 10,000 to 1 against Marcus and quickly climbed higher. The human must be insane, growled Trader Zos, a reptilian Vorthek with bright green scales. No one has ever even touched Kethver in battle. His partner, a tall insectoid alien, clicked his mandibles nervously. Maybe the human knows something we do not. His species is new to the galaxy. Perhaps they have abilities we have not discovered yet. Zos laughed harshly. What abilities? Humans are weak mammals. They have no armor, no claws, no natural weapons. They live for barely a century. What could they possibly know about fighting that the rest of us do not? Despite his words, Zos quietly placed a small bet on the human. Just in case. In the medical bay, Dr. Yelana studied her datapad with growing fascination. The Centauri scientist had pulled up every available file on human physiology and combat history. Interesting, she whispered to herself. Human muscle fibers were denser than expected. Their nervous systems processed information at unusual speeds. Most curious of all, their species seemed to have an odd relationship with violence. Unlike most civilized races, humans had never fully evolved away from their warrior instincts. The file showed that Earth had been in almost constant warfare for thousands of years. Only in the past few centuries had they achieved anything resembling peace. Even then, humans maintained military forces that trained constantly for combat that might never come. Dr. Yelena frowned at her readings. According to the data, human reflexes should be much slower than Kethver's enhanced biology. Their strength was far inferior. By every logical measure, the human should lose this fight in seconds, thought. So why did she feel like she was missing something important? Station Security Chief Rolf paced back and forth in his office, his forearms gesturing wildly as he spoke into his communicator. "No, Admiral, you do not understand." The crab-like alien clicked in agitation. "If this human dies in combat, it could create diplomatic problems with Earth. Their species is still new to the Confederation. We do not want to anger them unnecessarily." The voice on the communicator was calm and unconcerned. "Chief Rolf, one human freight hauler is hardly worth worrying about. His death will be ruled a legal combat challenge. Earth will have no grounds for complaint. But what if he somehow wins?" Silence stretched across the communication channel for several seconds. "That," the Admiral finally said, "is impossible. Kethver has never been defeated. The human will be dead within moments of the fight beginning. Clean up the mess and file the appropriate reports." Rolf sighed heavily as the connection ended. He had a bad feeling about this entire situation. In the cantina, Marcus remained in his corner booth with his eyes closed. To watching aliens, he appeared to be meditating peacefully. Some wondered if he was praying to whatever gods his species worshipped. The reality was far different. Marcus was running combat calculations in his head, analyzing everything he had observed about Kethver. The Zelthurian's height and weight, the way he moved, the positioning of his joints, and the flexibility of his armor plating. During his years in Earth's Colonial Marine Corps, Marcus had learned to read opponents like books. Every fighter had weaknesses. Every armor system had flaws. Every fighting style had counters. Kethver was big and strong and fast, but he was also arrogant. He had won so many fights that he no longer bothered to study his opponents seriously. He expected to overwhelm them with pure physical superiority. That arrogance would be his downfall. Marcus opened his eyes as Station Administrator Glent Voss approached his table. The elderly Altarian looked nervous, his gray skin showing patches of yellow stress coloration. "Human Chun," Glent said formally, "I must ask if you are certain about this course of action. Kethver has killed 17 beings in formal combat. He has permanently disabled dozens more." Marcus looked up at the administrator. "Are you asking me to back down?" "I am asking if you understand what you are risking. This is not some simple disagreement. Kethver will try to kill you. I know." Glent's large eyes studied Marcus carefully. "May I ask why you are doing this? The Centauri trader is nothing to you. You barely know him." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Back on Earth, we have a saying. Evil wins when good beings do nothing. But surely your life is worth more than one alien shipping business?" Marcus smiled slightly. "That depends on what kind of person you want to be when you look in the mirror each morning." Glenth shook his head in confusion. Human psychology remained a mystery to him. "The combat arena is being prepared. You have 30 minutes to make any final preparations." As the administrator walked away, Marcus stood and stretched his arms above his head. Several aliens watched him carefully, looking for any sign of superhuman abilities. They saw only an ordinary human working the stiffness from his muscles. The Centauri trader approached hesitantly. His name was Keleth, and he had 3 children waiting for him back on his homeworld. "Human Chun," Keleth whispered. "I cannot let you do this for me. Kethver will kill you." "Maybe," Marcus replied. "But maybe not. You do not understand. I have seen him fight. He moves faster than the eye can follow. His strength is beyond imagining. Marcus put a gentle hand on the small alien's shoulder. Kelleth, I have been fighting bullies my entire life. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but you always fight. This is madness. Probably. But it is the right kind of madness. 20 minutes later, Marcus made his way toward the combat arena. A crowd of hundreds had gathered along the corridors. Aliens from dozens of different species lined the walls, all wanting to witness what would surely be one of the shortest fights in station history. Some whispered prayers for the brave but doomed human. Others discussed how they would spend their winnings from betting against him. As Marcus approached the arena entrance, he passed a group of young Altarian traders. One of them called out to him, "Human, why are you doing this? You could just leave the station. No one would think less of you." Marcus stopped and turned to face the young alien. "If I ran away every time someone bigger tried to hurt someone smaller, I would spend my whole life running." The arena doors opened with a soft hiss. Marcus walked through them without looking back. The fight was about to begin. The combat arena filled with the sound of excited alien voices. Hundreds of beings packed the observation decks above the fighting circle. Energy barriers hummed softly as they activated, protecting the crowd from any stray weapons fire or debris. The arena floor was a perfect circle of polished metal, 30 feet across. Bright lights overhead eliminated every shadow. Multiple recording devices captured every angle, broadcasting the fight to betting houses across the galaxy. Marcus walked onto the arena floor, wearing simple black pants and a white shirt. He had removed his work boots, preferring to fight barefoot for better balance. His hands were empty of weapons. The crowd fell silent as Cathvar entered from the opposite side. The warlord had changed into his ceremonial combat armor. Black plates covered his massive frame, each piece decorated with the skulls of enemies he had killed. A cape made from the hide of some unknown beast flowed behind him. His sword remained at his side, but arena rules forbade weapons in this particular challenge. Cathvar stopped at the edge of the fighting circle and raised his arms above his head. The crowd roared its approval. This was their champion, their unstoppable warrior. Marcus stood quietly in the center of the arena, his breathing slow and steady. He looked small and fragile compared to the alien giant approaching him. "Last chance, human," Cathvar called out as he stepped into the circle. "Surrender now, and I will make your death quick." "Thank you for the offer," Marcus replied calmly. "But I will pass." Cathvar laughed, the sound echoing off the arena walls. "Your funeral." Administrator Glenth's voice crackled through the arena speakers. Formal combat between Warlord Cathvar of the Zeltharian Empire and Captain Marcus, Chun of Earth. Victory conditions. Human must land one blow on the Warlord to win. Combat begins in 10 seconds. The countdown timer appeared on screens around the arena. Alien voices grew louder as final bets were placed. Cathvar began his traditional war dance. The Zeltharian spun in complex patterns, his massive body moving with surprising grace. His arms carved through the air in practice motions. Each step of the dance was designed to intimidate opponents and display his incredible speed. Marcus watched every movement with absolute focus. He noted how Cathvar's weight shifted during the turns. He observed the rhythm of the dance. Most importantly, he identified the brief moment when the warlord would be slightly off balance at the dance's end. 5 seconds. Glenth announced. Cathvar completed his war dance with a final spinning leap that brought him down in a combat crouch, facing Marcus directly. His red eyes blazed with confidence. Marcus had not moved from his position in the center of the arena. His stance looked completely relaxed, almost casual. 3 seconds. In the observation deck, Dr. Yelena leaned forward to study her readings. The human's heart rate had actually decreased during the countdown. Most beings showed increased stress before combat. This human seemed to be growing calmer. 1 second. Kefir drew back his massive fist, preparing to end the fight with a single devastating punch. Begin. The warlord opened his mouth and released a traditional Zeltharian battle roar. The sound was designed to freeze opponents with terror, giving him time to close the distance and strike. It had worked in every single one of his previous fights, but as the sound waves hit Marcus, he was already moving. The human exploded into motion with a speed that defied every prediction. His first step carried him forward and slightly to the left, avoiding the massive fist that Kefir was already throwing. Strike 1. Marcus's right hand shot out in a lightning-fast jab that caught Kefir directly in his solar plexus equivalent. The blow targeted a nerve cluster that Marcus had identified during the war dance. The impact was precise and devastating. Kefir's eyes widened in shock. In 47 years of combat, no one had ever moved fast enough to hit him before he could react. His enhanced reflexes had failed him completely. Strike 2. Before the warlord could recover from his surprise, Marcus spun to his right and drove his elbow into a joint where 2 armor plates met. The blow was perfectly placed, striking a weak point that most beings would never have noticed. Strike 3. Marcus continued his spin, dropping low and driving his knee upward into Kefir's lower abdomen. The impact lifted the massive alien slightly off his feet. Strike 4. As Kefir staggered backward, his jaw dropped open in confusion. Marcus stepped forward and delivered a vicious uppercut to the joint where the warlord's jaw connected to his skull. The precisely aimed blow scrambled the alien's balance sensors. Strike 5. Kefir's massive arms swung wildly as he tried to regain his footing. Marcus moved behind him with fluid grace and brought both hands down in a hammer fist strike to the base of the alien's skull. It was a blow designed to incapacitate, not kill. The warlord's eyes rolled back in his head. His massive body toppled forward like a falling tree. The impact of his collapse shook the entire arena floor. Complete silence filled the arena. Marcus stepped back from the unconscious alien and examined his knuckles for damage. A few scrapes, but nothing serious. He looked up at the shocked faces in the observation deck. Well? He called out to Administrator Glenth. Was that 1 blow or 5? The arena erupted in chaos. Aliens screamed in disbelief. Others demanded to see the recordings played back in slow motion. Betting terminals crashed as thousands of wagers suddenly shifted from impossible to winning. Dr. Yolana frantically reviewed her sensor data. The entire fight had lasted exactly 1.7 seconds. The human had moved with speeds that should have been physically impossible for his species. Security. Chief Rolls stared at his screens in shock. His forehands shook as he tried to process what he had just witnessed. The most dangerous warrior in known space had been defeated by a human freight hauler in less than 2 seconds. On the arena floor, medical teams rushed to check on Kefir. The warlord was unconscious but alive. Each of Marcus's strikes had been placed with surgical precision to incapacitate rather than kill. Marcus walked over to where the Centauri trader sat in the front row of the observation deck. Your debt is forgiven, Marcus said simply. You and your family have safe passage. Kelleth stared at the human with tears in his large black eyes. How? How is this possible? Marcus shrugged. Practice. As the medical team carefully loaded Kefir onto a stretcher, the warlord's eyes fluttered open. He looked directly at Marcus with confusion and something that might have been respect. Impossible, he whispered. Nothing is impossible, Marcus replied gently. You just had not met the right opponent yet. Kefir closed his eyes as the medical team carried him away. For the first time in 47 years, the unbeatable champion had been beaten. In the observation deck, alien voices buzzed with 1,000 questions. How had the human moved so fast? Where had he learned to fight like that? What other abilities might his species possess? Marcus walked toward the arena exit, seemingly unaware of the chaos he had created. He had work to do. His cargo ship needed repairs, and he still had freight to deliver behind him. The arena floor remained empty, except for a few drops of alien blood and the echo of an impossible victory. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. In the hour following the fight, Nexus Prime transformed into a hive of frantic activity. The medical bay worked overtime as Dr. Yelana and her team ran every test they could think of on the unconscious warlord. Kethver's vital signs were stable, but his pride had suffered damage that would take much longer to heal. Fascinating, Dr. Yelana murmured as she studied the sensor recordings for the 100th time. Look at this impact pattern. Her assistant, a young Altarian named Vex, leaned over the data pad. What am I looking at? Each strike was placed with perfect precision. See here? The human targeted nerve clusters, joint connections, and balance centers. He knew exactly where to hit for maximum effect with minimum permanent damage. But how could he know Zeltharian anatomy that well? Our species have only been in contact with humans for a few years. Dr. Yelana shook her head slowly. That is what worries me. Either this human is a genius who learned our biology in a matter of minutes, or his species knows much more about alien physiology than they have revealed. In the station's communication center, long-range messages flooded in from across the galaxy. News of Kethver's defeat had spread to every major world within hours. The Vorthok Empire wanted to hire Marcus as a military consultant. The Centauri Federation offered him a position as a diplomatic bodyguard. 3 different criminal organizations put bounties on his head, while 4 others offered to pay him handsomely for his protection services. Most concerning of all, the Galactic Confederation Council had called an emergency session to discuss the human question. Security Chief Rolf sat in his office. Surrounded by reports he could barely believe. Intelligence agencies from a dozen worlds were demanding information about human combat capabilities. Several governments had quietly increased security around their human diplomatic missions. A CUD's chime indicated an incoming message marked with the highest priority encryption. Rolf opened it and immediately wished he had not. Chief, the message read, "We need to talk. What happened on your station today has changed everything. Admiral Vex." Rolf's 4 hands trembled as he typed a response. He had a feeling his quiet job managing a peaceful trading station was about to become much more complicated. Meanwhile, Marcus sat in a small repair bay, calmly working on his cargo ship's navigation system. To anyone watching, he seemed completely unaware of the chaos surrounding him. Trader Zos approached cautiously. The reptilian alien had won a substantial amount of credits betting on Marcus, but now he was more interested in answers than money. "Human Chun," Zos said carefully. "May I ask you a question?" Marcus looked up from his work. "Sure. How did you learn to fight like that?" Marcus considered the question for a moment. Same way anyone learns anything. Practice and experience. But where? Human worlds are supposed to be peaceful now. They are, mostly. But before we achieved peace, we had to learn how to fight. Some of us kept those skills sharp, just in case. Zos's scaled forehead wrinkled in confusion. Just in case of what? Situations like today. Dr. Yelana appeared in the doorway of the repair bay. "Captain Chun, might I have a word with you?" Marcus gestured for her to enter. The Centauri scientist looked nervous but determined. "I have been studying the recordings of your fight," she began. "Your combat techniques are unlike anything in our databases. Where did you learn them?" "Earth," Marcus replied simply. "But Earth is a peaceful world. Your species achieved global unity centuries ago." Marcus set down his tools and looked directly at the doctor. Dr. Yolana, can I ask you something? What do you know about human history? The basics. Your species developed space travel, joined the galactic community, became productive members of the Confederation. That is the recent stuff. What about before that? Dr. Yolana consulted her datapad. Some tribal conflicts, I suppose. Nothing compared to the great wars that shaped other species. Marcus smiled sadly. Doctor, humanity spent over 5,000 years in almost constant warfare. We fought with sticks and stones, then swords and arrows, then guns and bombs. We had 2 world wars that killed millions. We developed weapons that could destroy our entire planet. The scientist's large eyes widened. That is not in any of our files about Earth, because we do not like to talk about it. But just because we achieve peace does not mean we forgot how to fight. Some of us remember, just in case we need to protect the peace we worked so hard to build. You are saying that your fighting ability is normal for humans? Marcus laughed. Normal? Doctor, I was a mid-level soldier in the Colonial Marines. There are humans who could make me look like a beginner. Dr. Yolana sat down heavily, her mind reeling with the implications. How many humans have military training? Active military? Maybe a few million spread across our colonies. Veterans like me? Probably 50 million or so. 50 million? Give or take. We believe in being prepared. The doctor stared at her datapad, rapidly calculating numbers. If Marcus was truly average by human military standards, then Earth possessed a fighting force that could rival any power in the galaxy. Doctor, Marcus said gently, may I give you some advice? She nodded, still too shocked to speak. Do not fear us. We did not come to your galaxy to conquer or destroy. We came to trade, to learn, to make friends. But we also came prepared to defend ourselves and others if necessary. Others? Like Keleth and his family. We do not tolerate bullies, no matter what species they are. Dr. Yolana left the repair bay with her mind spinning. She had entered hoping to understand one human's unusual abilities. Instead, she had discovered that humanity might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. In the medical bay, Kepfer finally awakened fully. The proud warlord stared at the ceiling for several minutes, replaying the fight in his memory. He had been beaten. Completely, utterly defeated by a being he had dismissed as weak and primitive. But as the shock wore off, something unexpected happened. Instead of rage or shame, Kepfer felt a growing sense of respect. Marcus had possessed the power to kill him easily. Instead, the human had chosen to incapacitate him with the minimum force necessary. It spoke to a level of control and discipline that Kepfer had never encountered before. The warlord made a decision that would have surprised anyone who knew him. When he was released from medical care, he would seek out the human and ask to learn from him. For 47 years, Kepfer had believed he was the ultimate warrior. Today, he had discovered he was merely a student who had never met his teacher. Across the station, similar conversations were taking place in a dozen languages. The galaxy's understanding of humanity had been fundamentally altered in the space of 1.7 seconds. Some viewed humans as a potential threat that needed to be contained. Others saw them as powerful allies worth courting. A few recognized them as protectors who might help maintain peace through strength. But everyone agreed on one thing: the small, ordinary-looking human who fixed cargo ships and delivered. Freight was anything but ordinary. Marcus continued working on his navigation system, unaware that intelligence reports about his species were already being transmitted to government centers across the galaxy. He had a simple job to do and freight to deliver. The fact that he had accidentally changed the balance of power is known. Space was someone else's problem to worry about. 3 weeks after the fight, Nexus Prime had become a very different place. The first change was obvious to anyone who visited the cantina where it all began. Instead of cowering in fear, alien traders conducted their business with confidence. Disputes were settled through negotiation rather than intimidation. The atmosphere of barely controlled violence that had dominated the station for years was gone. Marcus sat in his usual corner booth, reading reports on his cargo deliveries. He had decided to extend his stay at Nexus Prime indefinitely. His freight business was booming as word spread that the station was now safe for smaller traders. Human Chun, a familiar voice, rumbled. Marcus looked up to see Kethfer approaching his table. The massive Zeltharian looked different somehow. The arrogant swagger was gone, replaced by something that might have been humility. Warlord. Marcus nodded politely. Just Kethfer now, the alien said. I have given up my old title. Please, sit down. Kethfer carefully lowered his bulk into the reinforced chair across from Marcus. For a moment, neither spoke. I have been thinking about our fight, Kethfer finally said. And? You could have killed me easily. I saw the recordings. Every strike was placed perfectly to disable, not destroy. Why did you show mercy? Marcus set down his datapad. Because killing you would not have helped Keleth or his family. It would have just made me a murderer. Most warriors would have seen it as a chance for glory. To be known as the one who killed the unbeatable Kethfer. I am not most warriors. Kethfer leaned forward. That is what I wanted to discuss. I wish to learn from you. To understand how humans approach combat. Marcus studied the alien carefully. Why? For 47 years, I believed strength meant the ability to hurt others. You showed me that true strength is the ability to protect others. I want to learn the difference. It will not be easy. Everything you think you know about fighting, you will have to unlearn first. I understand. Will you teach me? Marcus smiled. We can start tomorrow morning. In the administrative section of the station, Security Chief Rolth was having the worst day of his career. His office was packed with representatives from a dozen different governments, all demanding answers he did not have. Chief Rolth, Admiral Vex said sternly, I need to know exactly what capabilities this human demonstrated. Admiral, I have sent you all the recordings and sensor data. You know as much as I do. What I know, the Admiral replied, is that our most dangerous enforcement officer was defeated by a human freight hauler in less than 2 seconds. What I need to know is whether this represents a typical human capability or an exceptional one. Ambassador Kelix from the Vorthic Empire leaned forward in her chair. Our intelligence services are reporting increased human military activity near several border systems. They may be planning some kind of expansion. That is ridiculous, Dr. Yelana interjected from her position near the wall. I have spoken extensively with Captain Chun. Humans have no interest in conquest. Then why do they maintain such large military forces? Demanded Counselor Vex from the Altarian Republic. For the same reason they intervened here. They believe in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Admiral Lex stood abruptly. Regardless of their motivations, we cannot ignore the security implications. If one human can defeat our best warriors, what could their entire military accomplish? The room erupted in concerned chatter. Several representatives began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in a dozen different languages. Enough! Rolf shouted, his forearms waving for silence. We are talking about declaring war on a species because one of them won a fair fight. This was not just winning a fight, Admiral Lex said coldly. This was a demonstration of capabilities that could destabilize the entire galactic power structure. At that moment, the office door chimed softly. Marcus entered, looking slightly confused by the crowd of officials. Sorry to interrupt, he said. Chief Rolth, you asked me to stop by? The room fell silent as every alien turned to stare at the human who had caused so much concern. Admiral Lex was the first to recover. Captain Chun, I am Admiral Lex of the Confederation Defense Force. I have some questions for you. Okay. Are you a military officer? Former. I served 8 years in the Colonial Marines before becoming a civilian freight hauler. What was your rank and specialty? Marcus shrugged. Sergeant. Infantry Assault Specialist. Dr. Yelena whispered something to her assistant, who immediately began typing notes. Sergeant. Admiral Lex repeated slowly. Not a Special Forces operative? Not an elite warrior? No, sir. No, sir. Just a regular Marine. And how many other humans have similar training? Current active military? Maybe 5 or 6 million across all our colonies. Veterans like me? Probably 50 million or so. Most human worlds require some form of military service. The silence in the room was deafening. Ambassador Calyx found her voice first. 50 million trained soldiers? Give or take. Plus the planetary militias, reserve forces, and private security companies. But most of us just want to live quiet lives. Fighting is something we do when we have to, not because we want to. Admiral Lex sat down heavily. Captain Chun, do you understand what you have done here? I stopped a bully from hurting an innocent family. You have demonstrated that humanity possesses military capabilities far beyond what anyone suspected. Marcus looked around the room at the worried faces. Admiral, may I ask you something? Go ahead. What did you think we would do when we joined the galactic community? Just forget everything we learned in 5,000 years of warfare. We assumed your species had evolved beyond such primitive instincts. Marcus laughed, but not unkindly. We did evolve beyond them. That is why we use them to protect others instead of conquest ourselves. He walked to the center of the room, addressing the entire group. Look, I understand your concerns, but you are worried about the wrong thing. Yes, humans can fight. Yes, we are probably more dangerous in combat than most species. But we did not come to your galaxy to conquer anyone. Then why maintain such large military forces? Counselor Vex asked. Because history taught us that peace is only possible when good people are strong enough to defend it. We learned that lesson the hard way, over thousands of years of war. Dr. Yelena spoke up from the back of the room. Captain, what would happen if someone attacked the human world? Marcus's expression grew cold. Then they would discover why we keep those 50 million veterans around. But what about unprovoked aggression? Would humans ever attack first? Doctor, in the 3 weeks since our fight, how many beings have I attacked? None. How many have I helped? Dr. Yelena consulted her notes. You have mediated 14 disputes, helped repair 6 damaged ships, and provided free transport for 3 refugee families. Marcus turned back to Admiral Lex. Admiral, does that sound like the behavior of a dangerous conqueror? The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Captain Chun, I owe you an apology. We were so focused on what you could do that we forgot to look at what you actually did. No apology necessary. It is natural to be cautious around strangers. Ambassador Calyx leaned forward. Captain, speaking for the Vorthic Empire, we would like to propose a formal alliance with humanity. I am just a freight hauler, Ambassador. You will need to talk to our diplomats about that. As the meeting broke up and the various officials filed out, Dr. Yelena lingered behind. Captain Chun, she said quietly, I have one more question. What is it, Doctor? Are there others like you? Humans who choose to help strangers, even when it puts them at risk. Marcus smiled. Doctor, that describes most humans I know. We might be dangerous, but we are dangerous in defense of others, not against them. The galaxy is lucky to have found allies like you. The galaxy is lucky that most species prefer peace to war. We just help make sure it stays that way. As Dr. Yelena left, Marcus returned to his corner booth and his cargo reports. Outside the cantina windows, alien ships from across the galaxy continued to arrive and depart. Trade flowed freely, disputes were settled peacefully, and families like Kellith's traveled safely through space. In the medical bay, Kethver was practicing the basic exercises Marcus had taught him. Instead of raw aggression, he was learning controlled movement and precise technique. In government chambers across the galaxy, officials were drafting new policies for dealing with humanity, most focused on partnership rather than containment. And in the cantina where it all began, Marcus Chun sat quietly reading his reports, unaware that he had fundamentally changed how the galaxy viewed his species. The next morning, a young Altarian trader accidentally bumped into an aggressive Vorthic merchant. As tensions began to rise, the Vorthic caught sight of Marcus sitting in his corner booth. The large alien immediately backed down and apologized politely to the Altarian. Marcus never looked up from his reading. He did not need to. Sometimes, the threat of violence was enough to maintain peace. And sometimes, the galaxy needed to know that good people could be dangerous when they had to be.